Entrepreneurs aren't born, they're brewed. You are now listening to the Entrepreneur Podcast with your host, Adam McChesney. Let's grow!
Welcome to the Entrepreneur Podcast. I'm your host, Adam McChesney, and I want to thank you for being here today. We are live from Half Coast Studios here in St. Louis, Missouri. Thank you to Half Coast for this amazing setup and sponsoring the show. If you are looking to start your podcast or take your current one to the next level, then you definitely need to come check these guys out. Contact them today for a free consultation. If you're listening, please be sure to subscribe to the show and leave us a 5-star review on Apple and Spotify. We would love for you to share this on social media by tagging me and the guests, and this way we can get this incredible content out to more people. Today, we have another great guest episode lined up for you today. I've known this guy for almost 2 years now. He's got ties to St. Louis, but lives in the great state of Texas. A fellow member of Apex, he's in the executive group where he's also an executive coach, coaching other entrepreneurs. He is the king of making good choices, is an author, speaker, and podcaster. My guest today is Marc Zalmanoff. He is the owner of Marc Z Fitness and Nutrition. They have a physical location in Frisco, Texas, and he also offers online remote fitness training and nutrition services, which I'm a proud and happy client of. Marc, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, man. I'm excited to do this. You know, it's funny. I forget sometimes that you're in St. Louis, and I forget that I was born in St. Louis sometimes. So it's I'm like, oh yeah. And then it makes me think of toasted ravioli. So that's my mental connection to St. Louis is every restaurant has toasted ravioli there.
It's hard to beat a good toasted ravioli. So I can understand why you think that. But yeah, man, I'm really excited to have you on the show today. So for our guests, you know, we go through an entrepreneur process outline where we compare the entrepreneurial guests that we have on, their journey in business, the ups and the downs, et cetera, to that of the brewing process within a beer. So we'll get jumped into that here in a second. But Marc, kind of give us a rundown on where you're at today. We like to start there and then kind of work our way backwards. So get the audience a little summary on who you are and what you do.
Yeah, so for 20 years now, I've been a health and fitness coach, which is always weird for me to say that out loud now, thinking that my professional career has been that long. And it's all I've done as an adult. Like I went to school, I got a degree in kinesiology. I started training at Bally Total Fitness. So that totally ages me, because if you know what Bally is, then you've been around for a while. And I've really been at it ever since then. And over the past few years, I've added a few more things to the repertoire of what I do in this world. But by and large, I coach people. And you know, what I really love about it is I believe everyone has a purpose. Like every job that anyone has in this world serves someone in some way. And I never discount that. But I know that I get to personally affect people's lives on a daily basis. And there's power in that. And for me, it's not a power hungry thing. It's just knowing that I get to make an impact in ways that a lot of people will never get an opportunity to do it. And so I'm super blessed. You know, I have a physical gym in Frisco, Texas. As you mentioned, we do online coaching as well. I actually coach other fitness professionals to help them grow and scale their business with a company called Fit Pro Collective. I get to coach in Apex. I mean, I run my mouth all day is what I do. But with that, I get to coach people. And it's fun because I work with people from all different realms of life, all different industries, all different backgrounds. And what I've always loved about fitness is I believe it's the great equalizer. You know, there's an old quote from Henry Rollins where he says, 200 pounds is 200 pounds. Like the iron doesn't care. It has no emotion to you. It is what it is. And either you can pick it up or you can't. So when we get in the gym and we have, you know, CEO level Ryan Stewman's in there doing things. And then, you know, maybe a school teacher in there or a high school kid, but in the gym, we're equal. Like everybody's just in their own misery, trying to get better, doing the work, improving themselves. And so it gives me great purpose. And over the last couple of years, as I've been able to hone in on my core values and my purpose in this world, I've come to realize that my overriding mission is to leave people better. And it's as simple as that. And you've heard me talk about it a little bit before. We come up with these big convoluted mission vision statements, and, you can't ever remember what it is in the first place, and you never really apply it. But when I really started to break down, like, what do I do on a daily basis? How do I want to show up in this world? That's truly it. And so whether it's someone like you who, I've known for a couple of years now, and probably for years moving forward, you and I will be connected to each other, or the clerk at Walmart that I'll never see again, like, I want to leave that person better too. And if that means just putting a smile on their face for 5 seconds because they had a shit day and nobody treats them like a human being, and I get to be the one that does that, then that's me serving my mission. And so I've learned that the more that I'm able to just do that, the more life rewards me with any and everything I could possibly want. And it's a weird dynamic. And you hear the saying, you help enough people get what they want, and eventually you get what you want. And I'm sure, we'll talk about it a little bit later. Like, I spent years feeling like I was doing that and not getting anything in return. And it just wasn't my time yet. And I'm super blessed now that it is my time. I feel it's my time, and I'm reaping the rewards. And I live life with such a joy and happiness on a daily basis because of it.
Yeah, that's incredible. And I like how you talk about the purpose and mission and living that, as far as that's what drives you. I think, obviously we know entrepreneurs, we've seen them, in our networks and our groups and all of these different things. The people that come and go and that kind of put their foot on the pedal, but then back off and then they go in another direction, they're not truly focused on the purpose of the mission. It might be money, it might be purpose here and there, but when you really get connected with that purpose, that's when things start to happen. That's when you start to really, get the joy out of doing everything. And I remember, and I can't remember when we were talking about this, if this was at a recent event or what, but people always ask you, like, man, are you always this happy? And your response was phenomenal. Like, yeah, this is me. Like, I'm just super blessed and super happy to be doing what I do every day. And it's just really cool to see and to follow you and to now be, a part of your online group. Cause man, it's really cool to see what you do.
I appreciate that, man. And, I think at the end of the day, like, that most people want happiness. And, the things are great. And I've said it before, like, I like the money, and I'll take the problems that I have with money over the problems I had when I didn't have money. But, nobody on their deathbed's like, man, I wish I would have made more money. Like, because in that moment it solves zero. There's you can't solve your death with money. So, I wake up and I realize it's a choice that I've made, and I didn't understand it for a long time, but I have made a choice to live with joy and happiness. And so I create an environment that fosters that. I surround myself with people who foster that. I created a business that provides that for me. I found my dream woman that helps me do that. My kids, help provide that to me. And it's all because I finally just was willing to just give and give and give and give and give with no expectation, knowing that in some way, shape, or form, I'm going to be rewarded for it. And I know it sounds utopian to some people, and it's like, oh, you just decide you're going to be happy? Yeah. But it's not an overnight thing either. It's not, you take someone who's an alcoholic and they wake up one day, they have to decide, I'm not going to do this anymore. And day one sucks balls. And they're like, oh my, how am I ever going to get to day two? And then they get to day two and they're like, all right, I made it one day. If I can make it one day, let me just do one more day. And then you start stacking those wins over time and you realize, oh, like, I'm still making a choice. It's still a conscious effort. Like, you talk to anybody who's in sobriety, they'll tell you it's a decision they make every single day. But, the further you get away from that undesired behavior, the more you're moving towards the behavior that you actually want. So it gets a little bit easier and a little bit easier and a little bit easier until it finally becomes your default pattern. And that's what we're trying to get to. And that's, with fitness and nutrition, I try to get people to where that's the default action, right? You go from, oh, I never work out, to, man, I'll go crazy if I don't work out because I need that outlet. Now it's a part of your day. It's not a chore. It's not a I hope. It's not a I wish. It's, oh, it's 6 a.m. It's time to go. And we get up and we do the work, whether we want to or not, but it becomes part of that habit every day. And it's hard for people to see sometimes even 2 steps ahead of where they are, much less the 8 steps ahead that they need to get to. And that's why so many people don't take action.
No, I mean, you hit it right on the head there. It is a decision, everything, whether you believe it is or not, whether you think it happens to you, for you, what have you, like everything that you're doing is a decision. So I love that you talk about that. Great insights. I really hope the audience takes something away from that. I'm very confident that they will. The next thing that we'll talk about is the ingredients of your entrepreneurial journey and who you are as an entrepreneur. So in great beers, they're obviously made from great ingredients. What are 3 things that have made you successful in your journey thus far?
So this was, you sent some of this over, and I really had to think about this a little bit, because as entrepreneurs, we downplay everything that we do. Unless you're a douchebag. Like if you're a douche, you just you pat yourself on the back all day long. But like most of us, like we're our own worst critic. We never give ourselves enough credit for what we do. And so I really had to think about this. And so, I think the first thing really is the positive attitude. I know it has helped me through hardships that I've faced, just knowing that, I have this thought that there's always, I don't know, several billion people out there who have it way worse than I do. I never wake up and worry about a roof over my head. I never wake up and worry about food on my plate. Even when I wasn't making any money or whatever, like there was always food on the plate. There was always a roof over my head. I always felt safe. I never worry about my family being murdered during the middle of the day. I never worry about being persecuted for my religion. And there's billions of people that deal with like what I would say true hardships. So it allows me to have a positive attitude about whatever's going on and be like, you know what, it's all good. Like there's somebody out there that would willingly trade places with me and my problems all the time. So I think that's number one. Number 2 that ties into that is a perseverance of just knowing that I have purpose. And I'm a firm believer that I wouldn't be on the path that I'm on if I wasn't meant to be on the path that I'm on. And so there were times, I can remember times in my career where I was, 3 or 4 clients away from like breaking through that next barrier, but also 3 or 4 clients away from needing to go get a job. Like if I lose more people, I'm screwed, right? But what I would do is I would look around and I'd be like, you know what though? Like these people are in my path for a very specific reason at this time. And that's not me to determine. It's God's job to determine that. But if I wasn't still doing what I do, then I wouldn't be helping this person that's in front of me. So for whatever reason, I'm supposed to be helping this person in this moment in this world. Cool. And that got me through a lot. That got me through a lot of hard times and hard years of feeling like I'm just constantly struggling. And so again, it goes back to people, right? It's the people, it's the relationship, it's the coaching that I get to do that has allowed me to continue to push through when things were uncomfortable. And I had doubt about like, am I really supposed to be doing this? Because, I'll be honest with you, like most people in my industry don't last 20 years. Most people in my industry don't last 5 years. Like they're in and somebody recruits them because they talk well, but they can't sell their way out of a paper bag. So, somebody scoops them up and, hey, just go sell real estate or whatever. But there's not a lot of perseverance in the fitness industry with people. And then the third thing, again, that ties into both of these is really that purpose and knowing that I have a very specific skill set. I have a specific set of skills. I have a very specific skill set with how I connect with people and how I can get them to change their behavior. And, that was just time. Like time taught me that. Time taught me that I don't coach like most coaches do. Time taught me that I can relate to people at a level that most fitness coaches can't relate. I'm not the super ripped athlete. I'm not the guy that excelled at all the sports. Like I have to work just as hard. And for some of my clients, I have to work harder than them to stay in the shape that I'm in, to be able to do the things that because I'm not naturally athletic. Like I've said it before, I'd be a fat little Mexican if I wasn't in the fitness industry. Like I love to eat and working out sucks sometimes. So, but just having that purpose and knowing that, you know what, like I'm skilled for a reason. And again, it's not me, it's what I was gifted with in this life. And so it's allowed me to just stay the course and be like, all right, this is what I can hone in on it. And again, once I understood those things at a better level, then I just double down on all of it. And that's where things started to get good, because I'm like, oh, okay, now I'm beginning to understand that it's more than just, hey, I can show you how to squat and I can teach you about protein and carbs and fats. Like, I mean, I think you're starting to understand what we do with my company, with Marcs Fitness, that, yeah, the exercise and the nutrition is obviously there, but it's so much more than just how to move our body and how to feed it.
Yeah, absolutely. No, and definitely can attest to that myself. But the cool thing that I think for the audience is he talks about purpose, positive attitude, perseverance. So 3 P's right there. At the end, you talk about doubling down. And I think that this is something that so many entrepreneurs, and I've been guilty of it, I'm sure you have as well, a lot of us have, is that we always try to test new things and we get the shiny object syndrome. And there's a time and a place to do that. But if something's working and it's repeated itself over and over and over again, just go start doing more of it and start really honing in on, hey, I don't have to be everything for everyone. I don't have to offer everything. Like, this is what I'm good at. So I'm really glad that you brought that up, because too many people try to go after that shiny object that rarely ever works out.
One of my first business coach that I hired, one of the hardest things, I think probably in sales in general, but in the fitness industry too, is getting new clients. And I have great retention rate, but there's a process of getting people and people being ready to take action and all that. And so that question always came up. It's like, well, I need to get more clients. Like, what do I do? And I'll never forget this. And I still to this day apply this. He goes, how did you get your last 5 clients? And so you think back, you figure out who those people were, where they came from. And then, you tell him, and he goes, okay, go do more of that. Like, oh, like, oh, do the thing that's been working. Got it. Okay. And like you said, like you do that until it doesn't work anymore. And there's nothing wrong with experimenting. There's nothing wrong with trying new systems and processes and things like that. But for real, like, if something's working, just keep doing it until it doesn't work anymore.
Just keep on going, man. I love that. So the next thing that we like to talk about is the overall brewing process. So obviously great beer doesn't happen overnight. You talked about all these different things of you giving, you in that mode, and something that doesn't happen overnight. That's just the way it goes. Talk to us about your entire journey. So where things kind of started until you got up to where you're at right now, and the ups and downs that came along with it.
So when I first started training, as I mentioned, I worked at Valley Total Fitness. It was less than a year. At the time, Lifetime Fitness was new to Texas, and they were opening up a club in Plano, which is, I live in Frisco, so it was right next to where I live. And this is the first time any of us ever saw this thing, this monstrosity of a fitness, almost like a country club, but for the public. It was just an amazing facility. So I managed to get on there. I worked there for about 3.5 years. And for a large portion of that, I had a really great leader, not a manager. I had a leader in our fitness department. The company went corporate, and we all know what happens then. So he gets moved and relocated, and they bring somebody else in. And I was gone shortly after that, because I'm like, nah, I'm not playing this game. Like, I could already see what was happening. And so I went out on my own, actually opened a gym with another guy, and had zero business doing that. Had no good people around me to go, hey, have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? Are you sure about this? Hindsight's 2020, would have never done it if I had the knowledge that I have now, but I did. It was a shit show. We were in way over our head. Rent was insane. Stock market crash, lost all our high paying clients, blah, 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 blah. Right. So at some point I ended up just leaving the gym. So bad business breakup. I just said deuces. I took my people with me, and I was out. So for years I was operating as a contract trainer out of other people's gyms. So I would pay them a fee to use their facility. I'd do my own thing. Cool. I was always surrounded by average. And it's not a judgment on the person, but I was just surrounded by average. I was surrounded by other coaches who made, $50 grand a year or whatever, and they were totally happy with it. And I never had examples around me of people like really thriving doing what I wanted to do. So at some point, one of the gyms I was in got bought out. They kicked me out for some reason. They didn't like me. I still to this day have no idea why. But what's interesting is at that gym that I got kicked out of is where I met Ryan Stewman. And about a year later, I got reconnected with him and started coaching him, just doing personal training out of another person's gym. And so, in that time of transition, I'm like, fuck, now what am I going to do? Where am I going to go? Luckily I found a gym close by that was willing to take me in. It was dirty. It was hot as fuck. I had to kind of sell my clients on, hey, like, this is going to be uncomfortable if it's not a permanent solution. And luckily I had great people that would follow me. So, we go through that process for about 18 months or so. And then I find a gym that's being sold up here in Frisco where I live. And I'd always been trying to get back up to Frisco because in our area, like mileage wise, things aren't very far, but it takes forever to get places.
Oh yeah, that it does.
I mean, you could be 5 miles away and 25 minutes away.
Mm-hmm.
So, I acquired this facility. And at the time, I was promised some things that didn't happen. And so revenue wasn't where it needed to be. And again, I'm like struggling, like, shit, did I make a bad move? I'm like struggling to pay back the people that I owe money to, along with rent and everything else that I got to pay. But that's where that perseverance comes in. And I just kept plugging away. I'm like, no, I wouldn't be here if I wasn't supposed to be here. And I just keep plugging away and plugging away. And, Apex is just a huge catalyst. So I joined the Apex group, pour into the system that they teach and just trust the process. So again, back to, I'm just going to keep giving and adding value and giving and adding value and giving and adding value, and just trust that what these people are teaching, what Stewman's teaching, what Thomas is teaching, that it's all going to come to fruition. And what was really interesting to me is, so 2019, I joined Apex in the spring. I just moved into the gym in November of the year before that. So November 2018, struggling my ass off, trying to figure it all out. Definitely had shiny object syndrome. Like, well, maybe should I do this? Should I do, like, totally, almost throwing away the things that always worked for me to try to figure out something, because I was desperate in the moment. But I started doing that build your machine process. I actually did 75 hard that year and just kind of documented the journey and shared and shared and shared. And lo and behold, a couple of years ago, 2020 rolls around, and quote unquote, all of a sudden people start reaching out to me. Hey, I need some help. Hey, I want to do 75 hard. I know you've been through it. And that's when it was new, right? Like, no, there was no book or app or shirt or pins, or there was fucking nothing. Like, he talked about it on the podcast, and then you just went and did it. Right.
Mm-hmm.
But the interesting thing was, when I joined Apex, there were a few other fitness people in there, and I'm like, okay, cool. Like, I'm going to follow them, see what they're doing, just kind of, duplicate. They seem like they're successful. I don't know. We put the highlight reel out, obviously, but it's like one by one, they disappeared. And I look up one day and I'm like, the only one still being active in this group. Well, I mean, what happens when that's the case. You and I have witnessed that, being the only one of what we do in a group of people and being active, like, we're going to get business from it. And so despite the scamdemic and all that other bullshit that we had to go through, like, my business skyrocketed in 2020 because I just kept showing up. And, what we saw was people needed that help even more when that happened. Gyms are shut down. People are getting depressed. People are not around other people like they're used to. And they needed community. They needed connection. They needed movement. And, I had systems in place already. Like, I was set up to train online at that point before any of that stuff happened. My coaching business that serves other fitness coaches was born from that, because my buddy, Jonathan Loudermilk, and I were like, hey, these people need help. Like, and we're just going to help. No expectation. Like, let's just help and make sure that the people who really want to stay in business are able to still go out and help people. So it was, I know it was a shit year for a lot of people, but for me, it was the catalyst that that kind of catapulted me to where I am now, because I just kept showing up. There was zero doubt, as our friend Mike likes to say, there was zero doubt at that point that I was clear on my mission and my vision. I was clear with my core values. I knew who I wanted to help. I knew how I wanted to show up in this world. And then it was on. And so finally, after all those years of feeling like I'm just spinning my wheels, like things got really, really good. And they're fantastic now. Like, can they always be better? Well, of course, because again, we're our own worst enemy and our own biggest critic. And so I'm like, I'm not doing enough of this or that or whatever. And that's cool. But like, I mean, it's such a blessing now. And so you look back and it's like all those things make you who you are. Like you can't get to where you think you want to arrive to without going through all that other shit.
Yeah.
Every professional athlete tells the story of early mornings and late nights and injuries and overcoming. And it's the same with every person in this world who wants to achieve great things. Like, you have to test yourself. You have to be tested, and you have to understand that that's going to show you what you're made of. And every one of those, like reps in the gym, every one of those that you finally just gut out and push through it, that's one more notch that you're getting just a little bit ahead of the other people, just a little bit ahead, just a little bit mentally stronger, so you can persevere with whatever life throws at you.
No, it's amazing. I think that just putting your head down at times when it's not always easy to do it. Like you did that. I mean, my business took off in 2020 as well. Like, that's when it really kind of started, I guess, to really go into full time. But you just put your head down and you were already building the machine. You were already starting to do that stuff, but you just kept showing up when most people were going to stop showing up. And I think we're not too far off from, we're already seeing it in digital marketing. I'm sure you'll see it in the fitness spaces. People are starting to freak out again with everything that's going on in the world.
Yeah.
I'm telling people, like, I'm going to do a live later today. Well, actually not today when this podcast launches, but physically today, about talking about marketing during these uncertain times. When people back away, that's your ability to double down and get stuff done when most people aren't going to do the work. And that's really cool to see that you did that.
What's cool to me too is, again, to see people like you and a lot of the people that are in our circle flourishing right now, but we're not doing anything different right now. We've just been doing it for the last 2 years while other people weren't. And now we get to reap the rewards because we're the ones still standing. And not only that, but I talk to our coaches a lot about the confidence that comes out in the words that we speak. If I take two coaches and they know the same thing, they sell the same thing, they have the same pricing strategy, like literally offer the same thing, right? And both of them equally effective in their training and how they coach people. But if one person speaks with confidence and the other one speaks with doubt, the one with confidence will win every single fucking time, every time, without a doubt, right? And so we've been doing the reps for so long now. And again, it's not cocky, it's not arrogant. It's just, hey, I know what I'm doing and I know how I'm showing up, and I'm just going to keep doing that. And as you said, other people start to pull back and they're like, oh man, I don't know about this. I don't know, maybe I should go do this. Again, nope, I'm just head on, still same thing I've been doing, running my mouth and helping people.
Nah, it's amazing. Yeah, the confidence is key for sure. So the next step in our process is the fermentation and conditioning. So part of the process in the brewing cycle is where you wait to see the final result of how a beer tastes, figure out what needs to be tweaked in order to make it a little bit better. So what is the biggest lesson that you have learned that you would share with someone looking to basically save them years worth of mistakes, something that you've been able to take away and want to share with the audience?
Get a coach. Good grief. Like, it really wasn't until I did that things started to shift. Because what it did for me, the first business coach I had ran a mastermind that was nothing but fitness business owners. So it finally put me in the room with other people that were actually making money and having a thriving business and having a life and having, it's not balance, but, they designed a business that they loved showing up for. And it wasn't until then that I think I knew it was possible, but I never saw it. So I'm like, is it really possible? Can I really do this? And so paying the money and hiring a coach and getting around other people, I'm like, oh shit, it is possible. All right. Now we got something, right? Now we got something. And so, then joining Apex and then joining Mike Claudio's group, the Champion Circle, like every one of these times that I've invested money in myself, it pays. I can't even tell you, like, I don't know, 10, 100 times. I don't know what it is. It's a lot, but it's the bet on you. And so many people are afraid to bet on themselves. That's why people don't start exercising. They're like, I need to lose 100 pounds, but they won't go lose one because they're afraid if they lose 50 and gain 25 back, then they failed. So they won't even start in the first place. And people like us, we're like, here's my money. Let's go. Like, I'm going to get it back. I'm going to find a way to get the money back. Right. But it's not about the money. Like, we're looking for the growth and the impact and being able to help and serve more people. But I don't think any of that would have been possible for me without hiring a coach. And I wish, like, I didn't even know this world existed, until it was probably, I guess, around maybe 2016, 2017. So about 5 years ago when I first started kind of diving, and I'm 42. So you're talking, like, I spent most of my career without good counsel, good advice, good people around me. And then we see these young guys around us, they're like early 20s, just crushing it. Like Chase Scroggins, a great example, right? Young dude, super high energy, like just thriving because he's at a very early age surrounded himself with winners. And I wish I would have known, when I was 25 or 26, I wish I would have known this world existed. And maybe it didn't. Maybe there was only Tony Robbins back then, and it was so big, and to pay for mentorship was like thousands and thousands of dollars. But because people have grown such great programs and been able to kind of bring the cost down a little bit where you can get involved at different levels, man, anybody, I would just, like, from the jump, like, make that part of the budget. Figure if you got to go drive Uber on the weekend to make money to pay for some sort of coaching business, like, go do it, because that is the single most effective way to grow your business and avoid the mistakes that all the rest of us had to make to get to where we are.
No, it's a great piece of advice. And oftentimes I think people think it's not attainable or it's not worth it or whatever the excuse is. Like, you just need to go do it. And so I'm really glad that you brought that part up. Great piece of advice for the audience. If you're listening and you don't have a coach, got to get started somewhere. So the last step in the entrepreneur process, we have the distribution. So with beer, that's taking it to market and selling it. So you got all these amazing things going on, all these different directions, all these awesome, adventures, things like that. What's next in the future for Marc?
Right now I'm really focused on growing my online business. I was solo up until January of this year. I was running my own show, doing everything all the time like an idiot. And so, part of hiring Mike was to get out of that role so much. And don't get me wrong, I love coaching and I have zero plans to not coach anytime soon. Like, I want to be involved. I know some people run a business because it's the means to the end, and that's totally fine. Like, we have people in our network that they run a solar company. Well, they're not passionate about solar. They just found a way to make a lot of money and help a bunch of people, but it's just a business to them. For me, this is more than just a business. So I want my hand in it. At the same time, I can help more people if I grow a team. So being able to bring on Dustin Johnson, who's an amazing human being, he's obviously your personal coach within Marc Z Fitness, and he provides all the things for you. I'm going to keep adding more coaches as we get more clients on. I hired an executive assistant who just happens to be Dustin's wife, Tanya. She's already incredible. I think she's been with me, 21 days now. I'm like, oh my gosh, why didn't I do this, long time ago? But I know the impact I can make. So, that's the primary focus, is growing that side of things. And then our coaching business, Fit Pro Collective, for other business owners, I'm really passionate about helping good coaches stay in business, because I've seen too many leave the industry, and they're good. Like, they're really good with people. They just haven't figured out that sales portion. They haven't figured out the marketing portion. They haven't figured out they haven't been consistent with their action. So they do some things and it works, and then they stop. And they're like, oh, it's not working anymore. No, you're not working anymore. So, so we're also growing that and really honed in. Again, we're honed in on our core values with that company, who we're trying to serve, the messaging. And outside of that, man, I got a baby on the way.
Congrats.
Excited, dude.
It's
and
exciting.
I got grown ass kids. I have a 20-year-old and a almost 15-year-old. So I get to do this thing all over. And man, I love being a dad. Like it's so hard to describe what it's like to be a parent to somebody who's not a parent. And there's nothing like it. And I know some people, some people have kids and they don't really enjoy a lot of parenthood. It's not that they don't love their kids. They're just not, they're not like fatherly or motherly or whatever. But man, I love being a dad. It's so great. And I just dropped my son off at BMX bike camp a couple of days ago up in Pennsylvania, Woodward, Pennsylvania. It's like the gold standard of skate parks. It's amazing and it's beautiful up there, right? And this is a place like I didn't understand what this place was until I started telling some friends, and they're like, man, like Drewby, he goes, I used to beg my parents. I used to beg my mom to take me there, but we couldn't afford it because we just couldn't, right? So getting to provide things like that for him, but then just like, he's so grateful and seeing him grow and flourish, but also understanding like he's almost 15. Like I don't have a whole lot of time left with him in this capacity. So for me, knowing I have another son on the way and I get to do this all one more time, man, I'm so fucking excited about it. And, it's interesting because I'm 42, so I'm not particularly young, but I am in good shape. But like, I'm gonna be an old ass, I'm gonna be 60 when my kid's walking across, the stage at high school. But it is, I'm like, if there's any one thing I'm excited about, that's it right there.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm super excited for you and the family. That's going to be really cool. And really excited for all the things you got going on. As Marc mentioned, as I talked about on here, I am a personal client of their online fitness and training program. So I know firsthand what it's been able to do for me just over the last 6 to 8 weeks. And if you are, an entrepreneur and you're looking for ways to take it to the next level, Marc will have all of his social links in the bottom, but I'm telling you guys, you need to connect with him. You need to at least reach out. For me, I've never had a personal trainer. I've gone to gyms. I've gone to coaches, if you will, within a gym. And it's the camaraderie that is in our, online Facebook group that we have, our Facebook chat, but the holistic approach to what you guys do. It's just phenomenal. It's not just about, hey, you got to go be a meathead in the gym and all these different things that, like, if you go to, and there's nothing wrong with it, but if you go to a lot of these, local places, it's like, all right, we need to see where your baseline's at. And then we got to, like, it's completely backwards in my mind, for an entrepreneur, right? Like we've talked before, we're busy too. So there's some days where we're going to have to pivot and change, and you guys are obviously on top of all that stuff. So Marc, man, I really appreciate you coming on today. Can you leave the audience with just where they can find you on social media? We'll put it in the show notes.
Marc Zalmanoff on Facebook. I'm the only one. The Fitness Ninja on Instagram. My Facebook group is Make America Fit Again. So join that. And I'm not that hard to find. Like my shit's been plastered everywhere for years on end now. So come find me, follow me. If you need help, reach out. I'm always here for you.
Awesome, man. Well, Marc, thanks again for coming on, man. It was a great episode.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you.
And I want to thank the audience for tuning in to today's podcast. Please be sure to subscribe, download, and share our content. Leaving a 5-star review goes a long way. And thank you again to Half Coast Studios. If you're here in St. Louis and looking to start your podcast or take your current one to the next level, then you seriously need to come check out what they have going on here. See you next week. And remember, entrepreneurs aren't born, they are brewed.
I'm an entrepreneur. Entrepreneurs aren't born, they're brewed. Thank you for listening to Entrepreneur Podcast with your host, Adam McChesney.